Hey YouTube, I showed you guys this thing last night in an unboxing video. As you can see, it's got a regular conventional style of 2S plug, which would be like this. Got those two prongs on the top, and then it's got the E-flite style connection, which I'm going to show you the difference. If you don't already know, here's a 2S, like a Hextronics or whatever style, and then this is the little, which E-flite uses it too on the bigger batteries, but on their ultra micros they use this special connector with this rib on the top. Instead of two, there's one, and then it's a noticeably different size pin. So, and on a regular conventional Hextronic style, you can see they've always got that same look to them. So just brought those examples. This is the part number of this product. It's very good value. It's like a bounce charger plug for plugging these little E-flite batteries into. And the only problem I've got is I don't want to use this type of connector because I already use a balance board that I'll be showing you here in a few minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it off, these two banana jacks, and I'll put on my own regular XT60 connector, which is I guess I'm calling that a male connector, even though it's got sockets in it, which makes it a female. And this is the type of plug that would receive. And also I use those to help dissipate the heat when I'm soldering. So we're going to do that right now. Just move the stuff out of the way. And first step you got to do is get yourself some strippers and clip off the ends. This is not energized. No batteries are plugged in, so you should be okay to just chop these off at any time. I like to keep just a little bit of length because these things are actually fairly expensive, and so I will use those for another project someday, or so I say I will. Take your strippers, find the appropriate hole, go ahead and strip this back, and go a little bit more than you would normally. You're going to double that up. I always try to get about the same amount on both sides. Okay, so you can see I went a lot more than I need to fill that socket, and that's important because the nature of this solder joint is not a super strong, huge cable, so I want to give it as much area to make good contact. So you'll just kind of make that into a bit of a ball. Notice I didn't braid it. I didn't make it really small because I want to increase the surface area. And so, of course, you'll find the positive side, which is over here. And incidentally, these XT60s I get from Lemon RX when I'm ordering my Lemon RX receivers. They have these things for like 50 cents for a pair, which ends up being pretty inexpensive. So I go ahead and get those. Whenever I order a receiver, I'll order like, 2 pairs of them or whatever. Because it seems like every time I need that sort of thing at Hobbyking, they're always sold out, or some stupid complication like, oh, they only have black or whatever. Which I don't care what color they are. I just want to be right. Okay, so that's going to be the negative side, so that'll go here. So now we just got to get a little heat shrink, put a little heat to them with a soldering iron. We'll make those connections. Respective part numbers for black and red if you need it for heat shrink. So just cut yourself off your appropriate lengths and get that slid over. You're probably thinking to yourself, but Brian, this is just a stupid charger. It ain't that big a deal. It's not going in an airplane. It's not moving around. Well, actually, it's going to get moved around a lot more than in your airplane because you're going to be sitting here plugging and unplugging this when you're done flying and everything. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the soldering iron over here. Tack these things in real quick. Got the soldering iron hot, cleaning the tip. Let's bring that over here. And I also have my hot glue gun going, and I'll show you why that is here in a minute. So normally I would tin these, and that's what I'm going to do now. And you'll notice it's really awkward because the stupid thing wants to move around on you. Well, that's what I was going to show you next. That is provided you're not doing this on a live battery, I will use forceps. I like the bent end ones the best. And I'll grab onto the lead that I'm soldering, because I have the helping hands soldering tools that are like this, and they're just junk. The alligator clips are junk. When you buy something like that, guys, you pretty much get what you pay for. If you buy it for like $5, it's going to suck. So just plan on it. Plan accordingly. If you've got an alternative measure to hold them tight, then you're probably fine. But otherwise, plan on it being a piece of crap that's going to need to be replaced. So now I can take my soldering iron and just get a little bit of solder started in there. And then that will help to transmit the heat as we're working. So now I want to get some solder on the black line. Bring it down here so you guys can see. Get a little solder that helps to make the contact point larger, and then let it flow through the product. And get it globbed up there nice and thick. Okay, great. So now I'm just going to come over here and touch the two. Get the heat to transfer. Don't want a big air gap in this, because you want a nice sturdy connection for mechanical strength there. Okay, so that one's done. Move on to the positive lead. And at this point, it's a good idea to go ahead and get that heat shrink slid down so that it can be a nice, good, clean connection there. Okay, so the next step is to get this red one tinned. And here in a minute, we'll actually turn around and move that forcep to the red side of the terminal. There we go. That will help dissipate the heat. Okay, just kind of fill it up a little bit. You don't want to go too nuts on it. You want your solder joint to look nice and shiny when you're done. I'm not going to move this forceps on this one today. Oops, see, I got a straggler. Just pulled that up into the group. Just kind of rotate that in through the... Okay, solid now. Just get that soldering iron back. Verify your polarity before you plug it in, of course. Okay, so now that's pretty hot, so if you slide this over quick, then it's going to want to shrink down if you're too slow, so just get it over there fairly quick. Use the heat that's already in that connection to help sink it down, shrink it down, and we'll just get a little heat on there. Overdid a little bit on that red one. Lick your fingers, wipe off the soot. Okay, so now that part's done. The second part we got to do is, obviously at this point this is still pretty warm, so it's probably not a bad idea to go ahead and clamp that onto the hot side. Go ahead and pull that out. And what I want to do is I want to protect this, because I'm going to be plugging and unplugging this quite a bit, and I don't want these leads to get yanked out. And since this isn't going on an airplane, we should be able to just take some hot glue and go ahead and goop it around these connection points. Just like that. And basically, once you get all the way around, you'll just kind of put a little bit in between all those cables, and this will act as a stream relief, so that when you go to plug and unplug these cables, it'll be a nice sturdy joint. Take and lick your fingers and just make it nice and smooth and pretty. And at this point, it's not even hot anymore, you know, hot to the touch at all. And then the second thing I'm going to do is these connections will also get weak. So I'm just going to go and do a little bit of glue on each of these, and that glue is going to help to mitigate the chance of having them rip off. I've noticed these Turnigy Nanotech batteries have been very hard to plug and unplug, which is, I don't know if that means it's going to help hold them in better, or if it just means that it's going to be more vulnerable to ripping the other connector off. This one I kind of got crappy. I'm just kind of doing the one side, and I'll go back around and hit all the other sides. Just a little bit here. Now, the thing that's cool about this setup is that when this is all said and done, you can charge up to 6 of these batteries at a time. So what I'll do is I'll go upstairs and show you how to start your charger. And we'll go ahead and get some batteries plugged in. My batteries are all charged, but I can at least show you what it would look like. Give you some recommendations on that. So, the other thing is, if you get all these stringy things, because those are a little tricky with all these, and of course I'm filming a video, so I'm trying to do it fairly quick. Let's just use this as an example. Take your torch, just run it up in there, make it look nice and neat. Now that should mitigate the risk of yanking these pins out, but what I'm going to do is, I'll go ahead and just do the other side just a little bit as well. And this should be a pretty robust connector then. It's not going to want to break on us every time we're plugging and unplugging. And one would argue that you could just do nothing, but where's the fun in that? And besides, this come from Hobbyking for like, I think it was like $3 or like $3.75 or $3.50. I don't know the exact price, but it doesn't matter. If you want to know the exact price, get online and look up that part, and that'll tell you, because it's probably not going to be the same by the time you watch this video. So anyway, you guys get the idea, and if you want to pretty it up, I'll show you the next step and the final step to making these pretty. This would be the last step if you wanted to do it. I'll just do it on the one end to show you what it looks like. And sometimes this stuff, you'll get it and it's kind of some wider heat shrink, and works good for finished ends. But you do need to be a little bit careful you don't drop it down so far that it prevents you from making good seat. And when it's wider like this, it's a little bit tricky because you have to keep in mind that that hot glue is going to heat up as well. So I usually try to heat the backside first, get under there fairly quick, get it heated, let that hot glue stick, then go to the other side and rotate. And that's just going to kind of keep that hot glue from being a mess. And it's going to want to goop out like your fingers for protection, and then touch it. That was pretty warm at the end there. And that'll kind of hold everything together as a nice, solid, strong connection point. Plus it gives you something to hold on to when you plug and unplug it from your charger. So then these ones are probably a little bit less critical. So what I'm going to do is I'll just heat up around them. Just kind of wipe some of that excess down one at a time now that I've got them kind of, the heat has been curtailed and from the hot glue gun. A little easier to manage them one at a time. Just separate them one at a time. Just get rid of those little trails, and then you can wipe any soot off, residual from your lighter. Real simple setup like that. And I mean, if you add up the individual components involved in this, it's such a good value. And plus the problem is, I don't even know where to buy these female connectors otherwise. I think at one point I might have seen some that were on like Banggood or Amazon, but of course they were like $10, then you gotta pay shipping. This thing I got part of another order. So now you've got protection of the cables, and as you go to plug these in, there's little to no risk that you're going to accidentally short out your banana jacks, which if you have this plugged in and you touch those together, then you run the risk of shorting it out. So we'll go upstairs and show you how it charges. Okay guys, so now you take your charger, you plug it into your 2S port, you plug in your XT60 in my case. Now I could plug it in here, I could go banana straight in and then plug into the appropriate size port, but in my case I use this as a balance charger. So Then you just plug in your individuals. Like this is 300 milliamp hour, so you'll plug that in. This one's also 300 milliamp hour. You'll plug that in, and so on and so forth until you have all the batteries plugged in together. And you can do 3, you can do all of them, it doesn't matter. In this case I'll hook up 3, and then you go to your configuration on your charger, and right now it says 1 amp at 11.1 volts. So I'm just going to press the enter key in this case. I'm going to change this to, well, 3 times 3 would be 0.9 amps, or 900 milliamps. And then we're on 3S, so we want to change that down to 2S, because these are 2S batteries. And then you press start, and you press and hold it. It's going to check the battery, and now you confirm it. It starts charging. So it's at 8.4 volts. Then we zoom out and we show you nothing yet has caught on fire. So we had success. One word of warning, if you're using these balance chargers, until you're comfortable with it, leave everything unplugged power-wise before you start doing this. And bearing in mind that once you plug in your batteries, this board is active with voltage. So be careful. Don't screw something up or plug into the wrong pin of a 3S connector with your 2S connector, because you can short out and you'll burn your leads, or you'll ruin your battery or start a fire and burn your house down. So be careful about that. Anyway, here's the part number of that thing. You've seen the mods. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.